Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are going to talk about something today that many of us just don't really like to talk about. Sometimes you're a little embarrassed to even approach the subject, even to talk about it in your own head. And what am I talking about? That is lacking self-confidence. So many of us do or did. We're dealing with it. We know that we could be so much better in our lives professionally and personally, but we don't want to confront it because it's uncomfortable. Well, how do you get that self-confidence? How do you build it or rebuild it? We're going to dig into that today. And she is the founder of Mental Training. Caren Paskel joins us again on the program. Hi, Caren. How you doing?
I am feeling great today. How are you?
Doing very well. Doing very well. And even before we jumped on here, we shared with each other that there was a time not that long ago that we both felt that we lacked self-confidence, right?
Yes, it's not something I don't know if you're born with it or not. I don't think I was. The funny thing is I could get on stage. I mean, that's why I like to talk about it because people are like, "What?" And because I was on stage, I was dancing, I was singing, I was teaching yoga for years, but that doesn't mean just because you are a good performer that you are confident. I was sweating and nervous, and really, I messed up a lot of times because of the lack of self-confidence. I didn't really believe in myself, but I loved the what I was doing, not so much performing, but I love singing and I love dancing and I loved acting and I love teaching yoga and helping people. But the lack of self-confidence actually kept me really small, and it didn't allow me to fully enjoy what I was doing, but it also didn't allow me to serve, in the highest way and connect to other people.
Did you find, even though internally you love doing what you were doing, did you make excuses for those things? Like, let's say you had an opportunity to do something on stage. Did sometimes you just say to yourself, I'm not going to do it. I'm busy. Or it's like, it's just like it's more work because you didn't have that confidence.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I definitely missed out on a lot of opportunities because I just didn't believe I could, or I thought I didn't need it. I rationalized that, like, oh, I don't need to do this. It's fine. I really, and it's so interesting because I am so not that person anymore. I wrote down this affirmation and I say it to me every day. And that's like around the same time I started saying this to myself. I got a call from you guys saying, "Hey, we want to interview you." And I was like, "Oh, look how that happens." But this is what I said. I said, I enjoy opportunities to expand myself. And so you have to put yourself out there. And when you put yourself out there, as you know, in the world, guess what? You're not always going to get what makes you feel good. And so I think that's why people are like, you know what? I don't want to deal with the rejections. I don't want to deal with all the people who don't like what I'm saying or have opinions that, hurt my feelings, etc. And so, if you're not used to that and you don't have the tough skin or the self-belief to handle all of those responses, then you just hide out and kind of stay in your own corner, but you miss out because there are people who want to hear what you're saying. And what happens is so interesting, right? We could have all this praise and one person says something negative and it just, shoots us down. And that's what we focus on. So focusing more on the people who are responding and do want to hear what you have to say, who do want to see your light and be in it or be helped or whatever, or like what you're doing. If you focus on that, then you're going to be able to build that self-confidence. It says, I'm not here to make everyone happy or to serve everyone. And it's okay if there are people who don't like what I'm doing. So, I think we're not really taught in this skill early on to kind of build that. And you're just thrown into the world, and then that negative feedback comes and you don't know how to handle it. You don't know what to do with it, so you kind of fall apart, and then you stay in that story. And it's time to rewrite the story. And I'm talking about this because actually people are telling me, they're coming to me, and one of the biggest problems they are saying to me out loud is I don't have the self-confidence to live the way that I want to live, to live my vision, to reach my goals. And so people are more likely, I'm saying, saying this, but I think it's also because I'm inviting the conversation to talk about it and saying, hey, I was there too. I know how it feels and it's no way to live.
I totally agree with everything you said. And I lived it myself. I've been doing what I'm doing right now since I was 17. And all through the years, I would get asked, hey, can you host this charity event? Can you host this? Can you do that? And yeah, it's in my wheelhouse. I would do it a ton of times, but then there were a ton of times where I would say, nah, I'm busy. Nah, I'm not going to do it. It was all internally me saying, I want it to be perfect and it's not going to be in my mind. That I was the person that was saying it's not good enough. And it was all
Yes.
wrong until you have that moment. And then you're like, what have I been doing? I, like you said, you enjoy doing it, but you derail yourself.
Yeah, and you can't get better at it if you're not doing it. So I think this is key what you just said. I'm not good enough. I can't even tell you how many people I talk to every day where, even signing up to work with me, sometimes they even say, I don't know. What if I fail? What if I sign up and I don't do X, Y, and Z? And I was like, where is this? This is exactly why we need to work together. Where are these voices coming from? And I got really deep. I got to tell you, I got deep in reflection and I thought to myself, like, why? Yes, I know that tomorrow or next month, I probably will be better at interviewing or doing whatever I'm doing because I'm constantly growing and I'm learning. I've decided to be on that path. But I never stop myself and say, oh, I'm going to wait till next month when I'm better. I do it now and I do the best I can. That takes self-confidence to do that, right? We've talked about it. It's just so interesting to me that people stop themselves from opportunities to grow because they think they're not ready and there yet. So I was thinking the other day, I'm like, okay, you know what? Since human beings, we are the only species that can choose to evolve and grow, right? So I think knowing that we can be better sometimes stops us from actually taking action now. Instead of thinking, what we're talking about is wait, no, do your best now because you're going to learn and grow. And then more opportunities are going to come as you grow. The thing is, we talked about this too, you and I. Tomorrow isn't guaranteed. So you need the self-confidence to say, I am good enough as I am today. And I'm also at the same time growing and changing for the better. So that's how practice this kind of path and journey.
It's so easier just to say no. That's it. All right. Yeah, I can't do that. Boop, done, finished. As opposed to saying, yes, I'm going to do that. Now I have to prepare for it. What am I going to wear? What time do I have to show up? Let's say you're on stage doing whatever. That's what we're talking about. Cues and things like that. Caren, why do you think you lacked the confidence? Where do you think it came from?
When I was little, I was the baby in the family. And I really think it came from them because I was more introverted by nature. I enjoyed being by myself. So I'm an artist. I'm a Pisces. I don't know what that has to do with it, but they say things about the two things. And since I'm really creative, I was really independent. So I enjoyed activities by myself. And I think I cut myself off from being socialized, to be honest. I said, that was one of the things. I didn't do a lot as a child. And then I did get into sports and activities, but I really didn't have to push myself so hard. And I was spoiled too. Like if I didn't want to make my bed, my mom made my bed. Or if I didn't want to go to school, I was such a good student. My mom said, you don't have to go to school. So I never really had the tough love, to be honest. Sorry, mom and dad, if you're watching, but it wasn't the tough love that my husband gave me, who passed away, where it was like I complained and said, well, I don't want to do that. And he said, you're doing that or stop complaining, figure it out. And I was like, thank you. I even wrote about that in my book. Just the moment that he said that to me, I wasn't upset. I was so grateful. I said, thank you so much for telling me to stop complaining. No one's ever said that to me. So I think I kind of just got out of things easily, to be honest. And so, and yeah, that kind of complacency, laziness, like I don't have to do this. And I didn't really stretch my vision and goals. That was the other thing. I really didn't think about the biggest picture for Caren Paskel. Like, what is my full potential in this lifetime? And once I started thinking of that, and I think I only started thinking of that because I watched my husband at such a young age, 28 when he was diagnosed with brain cancer. He had the biggest vision of anyone I'd ever met at such a young age. So I started thinking about that and my imprint and what I wanted to leave behind and all of these thoughts that I really didn't think about before. So I opened myself up to this and realized that if I really want to be happy, abundant, and reach that fullest potential that I believe I'm worthy of, then I've got to have the self-confidence to show up every day and take those actions that are so uncomfortable. And even in our interviews, it was like I was used to talking to people, but not in the interview style on a podcast. That was the first time. That was a little nerve-wracking. And now I feel really comfortable. I'm really happy about doing it. So it's funny because I say no to a lot of things that don't serve my highest timeline, right? But I say yes to so much more now. In fact, as soon as I'm like, oh, that's scary or uncomfortable, but it's going to help me grow, I say yes immediately. And I just do it and I'm fine. And it opens up more doors. It's amazing.
So we are very similar. This is so weird. I did the same exact thing when I was younger. I was an artist. I wanted to be a syndicated cartoonist. So what would I do? I closed the door and I would draw cartoons. And then I wanted to be in radio. So what did I do? Didn't have any money. Single mom raising me. Got out of soldering iron, taught myself electronics, made a mixer. But what was I doing? Close the door and work on everything. And same thing. My mom was the enabler. I'll make the bed. Don't worry about it. Oh, you feeling sick today? Don't go to school. Same exact thing.
We love you, moms, but
It's
we
a
know
thing.
you didn't mean it.
Yeah, because you wanted us to be happy. I was bullied, when I was younger, and I didn't get the support from my dad. I think I should have gotten at that time. So that's another, confidence cutter, if you will.
Yes.
But I would never. Here's where I'm going with this. What we think is not what is. So you're telling me that you were a little uncomfortable doing podcasts and doing interviews and things like that. I've been doing this a long time. I would have never known. I would have never, ever known. In my mind, the first time we started talking was, she's amazing. Oh, this is great. Fantastic. She's a pro.
Yes, exactly. We do get in our own way. And it's interesting. You said about your father, like I was bullied a little bit, especially because I was cute and I had glasses and the boys always made fun of me a bit. And so I had that. And there were some mean girls, of course, too. And I do think when you're younger and you experience any kind of bullying, it sticks with you. And you're like, I'm just going to stay over here. I'm just going to hide out. I don't want to really be seen because we learn that when we're seen, people make fun of us. So that does carry through. And I work with a lot of people who in adulthood still deal with this impact of being bullied. And we have to work on the self-confidence, but with what you said about your dad, with my dad, I realized he did give some tough love for sure, but he was kind of like, reinforce it's never good enough. And I think that's one of the reasons why parents do this, right? Culture does this to us where we're really happy with something. And instead of giving like, yay, here's all the good things, but also you could also work on this in a better way, constructive criticism, feedback. It was like, I'd come home with an A and he literally would say, why didn't you get an A+? And I think there was like a sense of humor with that. But for me, it was devastating because all I wanted was the validation. So now we're getting to the validation. And we've talked about these topics, self-validation I talk about because now we're adults and now we can choose to validate ourselves and praise ourselves and say, you're doing an amazing job. You don't have to wait for someone else. And if you are, and they don't say that and we don't get it, it crushes our self-confidence. So we have to actually take responsibility and ownership and say, you know what? I'm a badass. You know what? I'm a powerhouse. You know what? I'm awesome. I'm beautiful. All these things, that positive self-talk really helps us to move forward and step into those uncomfortable actions that we don't want to take.
I really think your dad appreciated the A. And no, wait, and probably should have praised you. And, as a parent, I could say the same thing for my kids. Sometimes you got to remember praise, focus, praise. But he probably thought you were capable of even doing better. And he
Yeah,
wanted to show
and
you
I
that.
didn't know that at the time, and it's
Absolutely.
like because they don't always frame it like, "I know you can even
Right.
do better. This is amazing, but you also have more potential." He didn't say that, he didn't know how to frame it,
Yeah.
and so now it's like, I have to tell myself that, but also, that's the beauty of mentorship, that's the beauty of what I do for a living, because I find that I have found with mentorship that I actually hired people who I wanted in my life, who are self-confident, but also loving and also tough loving, and give that cheer, encouragement, but also give the reinforcement and everything that I need and the support. So that's what I provide for my clients, is that if they need that self-confidence, I model it and I lead by example. That's the most powerful way to educate, is to do it yourself. You could tell someone to do everything until you're blue in the face, but it's like parents, right? If they're not doing it, we're like, well, thanks for the advice, but you're not doing it, so I'm not going to listen. It's the same in adulthood. So I lead by example and I show up every day. I tell my clients and my like all those people who want to be coaches, I'm like, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that. And, they're like, I don't know. I don't want to, kicking and screaming. I just make sure I do it. And then I encourage them and I tell them, do you realize how incredible you are? Do you realize how much potential you are? So I think that having that dialogue really opens people's eyes and like, oh, I do? Really? And I think that I felt that way for a long time. I didn't see my potential. And I remember my husband just being like, you can absolutely do this. Like and I was like, I can. Oh, okay. So it just takes being around people who actually have it, and it's catchy, it spreads, it's contagious.
Well, same thing working with somebody like you will be honest, see the potential in somebody and direct them and sort of be their cheerleader, if you will. For you, swimming in the self-confidence pool, how do you prevent yourself from sinking from time to time? How do you always stay afloat? Are the things you say to yourself? I mean, sometimes people will say, wake up every day, look in the mirror, address yourself by name, and point out the good things in you instead of like, I got to sit over here. I got that. I got this. What do you do?
I have a whole morning routine to set me up for success. And it's actually, I not only prioritize my schedule, but I schedule my priorities. So it's a priority for me to feel my best, for me to take care of myself. And so the whole morning I'm up at pretty much 4 a.m. every day, just naturally. I wake up at this time. Now, if you notice, it's quiet. Mother Earth is quiet. So this is the best time for reflection. So immediately I wake up and I have trained my brain to be grateful. I talk about that. So this actually boosts your serotonin, right? You're like uplifted automatically. You feel joy because you feel grateful to be alive. And I look to the right, to the left, up and down. I'm like, whatever exists, I'm here and I'm grateful for it. I never look at what I don't have. I focus on all that I have, that I woke up to today is a gift. So that's number one. And then I go right into, I don't have it up here, but I have this beautiful butterfly book, and it's a kind of a journal. And I've written maybe 4 long, big pages of everything I want to admit and everything I believe I'm worth and everything I want to believe and my vision, all of it. And I say it as if it's already happening and in reception. So I'm basically just calling in. And I'll start out by saying, I am a beautiful butterfly being, or something like that. Whatever, I'm creative. There are only good days. I work with beautiful human beings who want to grow themselves, and I have wonderful relationships. I live amongst kind people. Like everything that I want the world to be and my life, I say it out loud. like for real. And I'm just like, it is. It, like you said, it just is, you know? So I go through that and then I have a study. I reflect on eternal values. So anything that's timeless, like timeless teachings, universal teachings that we can't really argue, you know, that have existed before, now, and will exist later. And maybe it's my spiritual books, or maybe it's the Four Agreements, something like that, where I will just read and more so reflect on what the teaching value concept is to start my day on the highest note possible. Like, how do I bring this teaching into the day and apply it? So after all that, usually this happens between 4 and 6 a.m. I give myself then the quiet time of writing content for my posts or my book, or emailing to clients who have reached out and asked me questions. I want to be really clear headed. So I keep my main focus, you know, writing and responding to people at that time. And then I go into movement. I walk my dog. I get fresh air. Even if it's freezing, I bundle up unless I absolutely cannot get outside, because you know Michigan weather and I know you know the seasons. But I get all these things from me. So I'm at my best. My body's moving. I'm in the fresh air, nature. And then I usually do another set of workout, whether it's like a quick run or weights or whatever. And maybe it's yoga. And then I eat an amazing breakfast. So that's my day start to make me feel at my best, because if I'm not feeling good physically, mentally, intellectually, or spiritually, it's really hard to have the self-confidence to go out there and do a live video or show up to an interview or coach somebody to be their best or whatever it is that I'm doing. So that's my morning routine. And I believe that really helps me with my confidence.
Thanks for sharing that. That's pretty amazing. And it's almost like a football player is not just going to show up on the field. "Hey, I'm ready to play." No, he's been working on that for weeks just for that one game in
Yeah.
terms of plays, strategy, and being ready. So I love the fact too that you write in your journal, you do your thing there, but then right after that, you're expressing yourself even more when you follow up with emails and talk to clients and answer questions. When you write in your journal, do you write 4 pages a day?
No, I go
Okay.
over the same pretty much affirmations, but I do alter them or add on if I see that there needs to be refinement. For a while, they were on my phone, but I realized, and I could easily, you know, shift and change things around because they were in my memos. But I didn't want to put my eyes on like a computer screen or a phone screen that early. So I just started writing it eloquently out. So it's the first 4 pages of the journal. And I think that there are some things that might need to change. And so I may rewrite them, but it's almost as if it's already like a written, you know, scripture that I'm just reciting on a daily basis that I made over time so that I could just go and read it. And then when I say writing, I go into, like, I have another book, The Power of Self-Love, that I am nurturing right now. So that morning time is also time to take a little bit of time so that my book gets written. You know, it's like even a little bit goes a long way. At some point, I'm going to have everything together. But you're right about, I have these positive conversations and dialogue from the beginning of the day with myself, reading, you know, and writing. And then the language that I use is very similar when I'm working with people or when I'm being interviewed or doing a live. So it's like a constant reinforcement of how I truly want to live every single day. I've made my life this way. I decided I wanted to be around that. And you said something interesting. You know, I had a choice at one point to take my art career, you know, in one direction. I went to a really prestigious school at Otis College of Art and Design in California. And I started doing the gallery thing, and people were interested in my work. And my teachers were telling me no one's doing this, but I was closing the door. I was isolated. I was like, you know, it really took me so inward and by myself
Mm.
that when I started to teach yoga, I knew I needed to go in this direction to open myself up to be more of service in the world.
You know why you didn't do art?
Why?
Because you didn't have self-confidence.
probably as
Yeah,
well.
no, and that's why I didn't. I almost became a syndicated cartoonist around the country. It was just like that close. And I was just like, yeah. But then, your yoga career started there, my radio career started there. And it's like, but just what you said, that's why I went down my path because I felt I could make an even bigger impact. Uh, Still lacking self-confidence, full disclosure. There's no doubt about that. But you went with your gut and you felt it. But
You're right. I was uncomfortable though. I mean, there were two parts, right? It's like I was very uncomfortable selling my work and getting the politics of the world. You have to have major self-confidence for that, right? So I think that was like the major, but I did really truly believe that when I taught yoga, I was making more of an impact and it aligned more with my personality. And so I think that I was happy and I could have gone either way, but the self-confidence, no matter what, would be needed to be an artist, and it's needed to
sure.
be, the mentor, author, and speaker that I am today.
Well, when you talk about the art road, you would have needed to sell yourself.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that confidence, you can't. Same thing with me. I would have had to sell myself to syndicates around the country for a comic strip back in the day. And picking the yoga route, you could just do your thing and it felt more comfortable. Fortunately, you did go down that road and that led you where you are now. I love the fact, and I've never heard anybody say this. A lot of times it's keep a journal, write 4 or 5 things that you're grateful for every single day. Most importantly, physically write. Don't type it on a screen. It's been proven in research that you need to have the mind-hand connection. This doesn't work. That doesn't work. But you go over the same stuff every day. And as soon as you said the word like a scripture, as you're saying it, I'm thinking, oh, it's Karen's Bible. It's what it is. It's what it
Yes,
is. Yeah.
exactly. And so many people talk about this, and consistency is key.
Yes. Habits. Call it
Consistency
a
is
habit.
key.
Yeah.
You have to build that habit. And when I'm reading it, it's almost like I'm memorizing it. And it's just, it feels so true and real. Like I believe these things, that I've
Because
written.
it came out of you. Now
Yeah.
we can go online and look at a bunch of positive affirmations and write them down in our own handwriting, maybe tweak them a little bit, whatever it is. But this came from you, so
Yeah.
it's all genuine. And of course, you're going to tweak it a little bit because you might think of something. Oh, you know what? Let me riff on that one point right there. On a sub page or whatever it might be. But it is so genuine. I got to do that.
Yeah, I feel like I definitely gave birth to that. And it's like I'd
Mhm.
be during the day just kind of walking around. I'm like, I remember this one moment when I thought, oh, there goes Onyx, my Great Dane. He's barking at the mailman. And I just thought to myself, I am a magnetizing force of nature. And then I'm like, that must go in the affirmations. And I remember writing it down. And because I didn't want to forget that thought, I thought, what an empowering thought to have and believe, So basically, we learned a lot of beliefs, and as you know, they may be self-limiting, which impedes our growth, etc., and our self-confidence. So it's almost like my belief Bible, if you will, is what I call in every day.
We're just about out of time. I want to ask you final question on Karen's Belief Bible. The 4 pages, it's 4 pages, correct?
Yeah,
Okay, that you read every single day. Maybe you tweak it every once in a while. How long did it take you to create those?
that's a great question. I don't even know. It was like just I think pretty much I built it up probably over a month or so, where I
Mm.
had few, and then I mean, these pages are like this big, they're big pages.
Oh, okay.
They're
Oh,
pretty,
interesting.
so it's actually, I mean, in this, it probably would be a lot longer, but it took me, I would say, about a month to just kind of keep building and adding on until I felt really strongly about everything that was in there, that I covered everything. And then I wrote it all out in my beautiful butterfly Bible book.
Hmm. And being the artist that you are, your penmanship, handwriting must be pretty good.
It is when I take my time.
Same. I
And
knew
when
it.
I don't, it's not. And I can read it no matter what. So that's all that matters. But I think someone could transcribe it.
But you know what? And this is my personal final thought. when you take the time to write it clear, I believe it resonates more with you because it is your work of art. We all are. So you took that time to make it clear because you're referring back to it all the time. It's not just
Yes.
one and done. All right, on to tomorrow's beliefs about Caren.
And I didn't write it in one session. I mean, it took
Right.
a while. I would just, write, and then my hands started getting a little shaky and I put it down and.
I can't believe we're out of time. I just want to keep going.
Well, we have a lot of more sessions to keep talking, so I'm super excited.
Same thing here. All right, your website, tell everybody.
It's CarenPaskel.com. That's CarenPaskel.com.
We have it in us. You have the confidence. Don't believe anything else and get to work on that's a homework assignment for all of us. And you think I'm kidding. I'm going to be doing it. I'm going to make Steve's Belief Bible.
I love it.
Yeah. Always great talking with you, Caren. Look forward next time we get together.
You too. Thanks. Have a great day. Good to see you.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.